What's up, guys? I think one of the most interesting topics nowadays when it comes to e-com dropshipping and YouTube is how to transition a classic pump and dump dropshipping store into a real, actual, sustainable, exitable, and valuable e-commerce brand, okay? And so to give you a little bit of proof, one of the brand owners I've been working with, this was on the 19th of June, as you can see here, screenshot, first 1K day with the store, right? And then, pretty much a month later, it's 22nd of July, we were already at consistent $10,000 a day. And there's certainly very, very different things that get you from 0 to 1 than from 1 to 10, right? Quite literally 0 to 1K day and then 1K to 10K day. And so I've written down 11 things that every dropshipping store does wrong. And the cool thing is that if you know what you do wrong, then you can just turn them around and do it right. And I'm going to walk you through everything. And so that you have basically on a silver platter all the information. You never can complain that you miss any pieces of knowledge or information. Okay, so let's get right into it. First mistake that every single dropshipping store makes is that their average order value equals the lifetime value of each of their customers. Okay, now the huge problem with this is whenever you look at in fact, when you look at overall the equity space, or like when investors are looking to buy businesses, invest in businesses, what is the very, very first thing that they look at? They look at the CAC per LTV ratio, meaning the cost per acquisition of a new customer, right? And then the ratio or the gap between that and the lifetime value of each customer. Now, when every dropshipping guru is recommending you to do like $20, $25 margins and the AOV is literally all that you make from a customer, of course, you literally depend on your ROAS. You depend on, for example, your Facebook ROAS. And it's a terrible, tough position to be in as a business, which is never going to work out in the long run because it gets more and more difficult, more and more expensive to advertise, meaning what's going to happen realistically is if this is all your business can do, then you're going to die out. And this is why dropshipping stores die after months, right? And that's why people switch products all the time, because they don't maximize the value that they make out of each customer. The reality is this: there's a lot of money in each of your customers, that you can make a lot more out of each of them just by actually for example, implementing recurring revenue structures, meaning subscription offers. And you can do this in every country, right? Usually you hear a lot of times here and there that, okay, you can't do this in Europe, and you can't do this there and payment processing and whatnot. There's always a way. And honestly, if there's some type of weird structure when it comes to payment processing that you literally can't possibly set up a subscription offer to just switch countries and actually sell to the US. But everyone can set up a subscription offer, okay? Every e-com brand can pull that off, meaning if you don't have one, you're just missing out. It's not a nice to have nowadays anymore. It's really a must have. And if you don't do this, competitors will do this for you. Now, there's other things that you should do too, which are, for example, retargeting, which are, for example, new product launches, which are, for example, optimizing the customer experience, the packaging, the shipping, everything in the entire process in the funnel, right? Basically the delivery part of the business. And, by that, what happens is naturally every single customer is worth significantly more money. And then you can always spend more back into ads and invest more into other parts of the business to once again make it more valuable and remove yourself. And this is what I'll break down here. Second thing here is that every single dropshipping store recently that, scales something right now, if you can look at actually like in every Discord, what is being pushed right now, right? It's usually the cow data content. It's usually the people that are trying to tell you the quickest, newest product research strategy, and then they have some live calls in their Discord, and what they do is they share their screens, and then they hop on cow data, and then they just like look for the quickest, best selling product, and then they just take it and rip the content, obviously run it on Facebook. If the ad account gets banned, then they make a new one. If not, then not, then perfect. And then that's what they do. And then they tell you to test 3 products a day or a week or whatever, and there's no real system or skill involved. And in fact, a skill is tracking properly. A skill, I would say, when it comes to paid ads is knowing when to, what decision to make, how quickly you implement it, and how much you track, right? I don't think necessarily that, ripping and downloading content or picking the right content to download is really skill. I don't think that's a skill at all. I think that's, ridiculous that people actually try to sell that as a skill. And whenever you join their program or something, then they try to tell you, okay, just rip that, just download this, just test more ripped ads and whatever. You don't learn anything from that. And the reality is this: a lot of them don't even know what they are doing. doing, right? So, but let's not even get too deep into that. The point is, if all of your content that you're scaling right now is cow data, then once again, your business is probably going to cap out at a very quick revenue point, because at some point your ads are just going to get all rejected, your ad account's going down. Even if that does not happen, right? No investor on earth is going to look at the business and think, oh my God, great business to invest to, right? Great business to buy. Would you buy a business that is ripping all their content? No, that's not a business, okay? It's just some random scraping on someone else's work and revenue, and it's nothing that you can be proud of and nothing that you can call a business, in my opinion, okay? Now, number 3, okay? Now, usually, this is actually a pretty big one, because this is something which I actually, work a lot on always, and I never stop working on this, because this is probably the craziest lever for every founder at some point, is actually that a lot of people have no systems in place, they have no employees, and they have no proper tracking, okay? So really just the standard operating procedure, okay? So what is an SOP? Standard operating procedure is just a standard way of doing something. Every part of the business, every part of your business should have a completely standardized system behind it, and there should be specific people for each task, and you should not be the person doing everything in your business. Because whenever that happens, whenever you find yourself in a situation that the business depends on you, and it does not function properly without you, and the second that you stop working, then you stop basically making money. What you've built yourself is not a business, you've built yourself a job, okay? And yes, maybe you make a lot of money with it, that's cool, but you're never going to be able to exit that business, and that's usually where the real money is at, okay? Especially in e-commerce, where you have like a big multiplier whenever your systems are obviously in place. And speaking of the systems, obviously you should have outsourced actually to A players, to talent, paying a lot of money, not just for some random VA. You should build a company, a real culture, okay? So you shouldn't really outsource the cheapest labor possible. You should actually build the system and hire A players, talent, new creative brains and minds into your business that are going to scale it without you, okay? And that is what actually ultimately, first of all, scales your business in the first place. Second of all, obviously what makes your business exitable, because then it's like you slowly remove yourself from that company, okay? Now that's going to make it very, very powerful. So how do you do this, right? Because it's obviously super difficult to do. Well, you start with the low leverage tasks that everyone's already doing. And so you, for example, like, where you waste a lot of your time probably right now is video editing, graphic design, creator outreach, creator onboarding, creator offboarding. It can be customer support, but especially in the creative process, there's a lot of things that people do wrong. Tracking variables, doing research, all of these things, so easy to outsource and hire people into. And then when you have a couple SOPs of how to do stuff, and you just pay someone to do it for you, you will realize that actually managing and training and hiring people is the highest leverage thing that you can do in your business. And that is usually the thing, right, that has the biggest dollar amount for the hour that you invest into it, okay? It is just what it is. You can twist it and turn it. You can be the best copywriter in the world. The second that you start hiring copywriters, you'll make more money than copywriting yourself. And that is usually how, kind of a point of realization that every entrepreneur makes. And I get that, you kind of don't believe it now because you've never been there, never done it. But I promise you, and then you actually will realize this when you get to this point, there's nothing that's crazier than the effect of actually getting work done fully without you. And especially when that work is profitable, okay? It's extremely like an eye-opening moment, right? And usually, especially in the dropshipping space, people don't even know that they can hire people, okay? So it's ridiculous. Now, thing number 4 is that people switch products the exact second that things get difficult. And this is kind of tied to the previous things, because obviously for the first month or two, when you rip cow data, there's not a lot of people already doing it. Well, usually what happens is people tend to have this initial product market fit of everything just working, okay? You upload the ad account, like stuff into the ad account, everything just works, everything's this, everything's that. You get complacent, you don't really keep working, but it just keeps working, okay? Now, when you get complacent, when you don't don't start building out your systems, when you don't basically develop on the creative strategy, when you don't do all of these hard things, don't try to still level up even though you're already making money, then what's going to happen is there's going to come a day where everything crumbles down. Okay, so there's going to come a day where your ad account gets shut down, where your payment processors get basically blocked, right? And you have no backups for one of these things, or maybe none of these things, right? You have, some type of thing happening in your personal private life, and you have no one else doing the work for you. Like some cash flow issue happens, there's a million things that can go wrong. Okay, and some of these will hit you eventually. In fact, all of these will hit you. And usually this is like what people then complain on, oh, it all happens at once. And it kind of does, because it all happens because you get lazy as the founder. Now, what people tend to make a positive conclusion out of that, or what they think is a positive conclusion, is, okay, let me just actually go ahead and switch my business, switch my product, switch my avatar, kill my entire understanding of the niche that I've been operating in, and actually let's just do something completely different. Now, the problem is their brain rewards them of doing this. Their brain rewards them of behaviors like completely changing, giving up on something. Now, you program your brain by doing this to, okay, whenever things get hard, I just quit. That's what your dropshipping brain is programming to. So it's super difficult, and it's not a very smart decision to make, because then the problem is, people expect, okay, well, let me just switch products because then it's going to be better. But the problem is you're always going to have these problems. Whenever you scale to a certain point, you will always facing these same problems again, and then you can switch again for the rest of your life, or you actually decide to, take on these problems and fix them yourself, right? And don't run away from them, because no big company and big brand has switched their entire business, right? So basically shiny object, because you switch everything, right? So you switch your entire business just because things get hard, right? And then you might as well, not do e-com anyways, if this is your approach, because no one really makes a lot of money. There's people making money here and there with the pump and dump dropshipping approach, but there's absolutely no one that does this, oh, well, let me just switch products when things get hard, that consistently makes a lot of money, right? Even if they have a couple of cool screenshots, trust me. Okay, so next thing, no legal setup and no cash in the business bank account. This is something which especially younger entrepreneurs tend to do. They think this is a side hustle, this is a game, this is a video game, right? There's a lot of cool comparisons with business to, video games. You level up, you make this, you make that, and then you just make more money. Thing is, this is an actual completely real company. You're competing against very, very real companies, big companies, experienced business owners, 50, 60-year-old men who have been doing this for a lifetime, and they know how to take you out if they want to. Now, the thing is, you're going to get into legal trouble. Whether you've done everything right or not, and probably not if you've ripped content, media, copy, everything, probably have done some things that they could actually probably get you for. However, even if not, you're going to get into legal trouble, because whenever you get a serious competitor of someone, they will try every way to remove you from the market, because this is a competition. E-commerce and business is very competitive. People will try to stop you and take you out of the competition. Completely normal, because you will do the same. However, what's really important about this, right, for you to understand, is if you have no legal setup, then you're going to struggle. And what's even worse than having a legal setup is having no money to pay for a lawyer, okay? And usually when you start making money, the last thing that you should think about is, okay, which Rolex do I get? Or how do I lease the next coolest car? Okay, this is all nonsense, and it's waste of your money. I'm really telling you this with full honesty. Like, when you get a new car, it's cool for a couple weeks, and then that's it. Okay, so same thing for every luxury purchase or trip or whatever that you can buy. And usually, and this is the boring answer, but if you leave the money in the bank account and reinvest it, or even just leave it there, because trust me, this is actually a big secret, right? But the best brands, the best companies, they always have cash. They always have cash. They're always liquid. They never have trouble, and money talks. You know this, okay? So if you don't have the delayed gratification, or the possibility, or the willpower to delay the gratification and just not touch the money for an extended period of time, then you can already might as well close your Shopify account, because it's hard. Running a business is not difficult. No one's not easy, right? No one said running a business is not easy, right? No one said it was going to be easy. So definitely approach it like a business and not like a side hustle. Okay, you're competing against very, very serious competitors who are very serious about this, and even if you aren't, you're going to get into trouble if you don't take it seriously. Next thing, which most dropshippers are not doing right, is they have no research and development. Okay. Now, what usually people do is private research. Yes, everyone does that, right? Because there's always this winning product. By the way, it doesn't exist, but people tell you that you find a product that is already there and then you just sell it, and then you sell it forever. But if you look at any brand that is not in this design, in this shape or form on AliExpress, for example, then you got to ask yourself, how did they do it? How did they get on like AliExpress or on their brand without having that design of AliExpress or whatever, right? And usually the answer to that question is they developed on the product. They did something called product development. Now, you have to do this. You have to start implementing this. You have to actually start thinking about, how do I make my brand and my product better? How to implement an actual unique mechanism that sets me apart on a product level. And I don't even have to come up with things and lie in my marketing about being better, because I actually am. And the cool thing is, this will also block that, like put away that mental block of you trying to make, as crazy content as possible. Because if you are truly convinced about your stuff, then you're going to sell it with all your heart. And if you sell something with all your heart, you're going to do everything else right. You just have to be passionate about the product. One of the most important criteria for product research that I tell every single person I work with is that they should personally feel passionate about the product that they sell. And every single time it pays off for some reason. But yeah, no, keep looking for the stuff with $20 margins and, like 10 serious competitors and cow data content. Cool. So yeah, next thing, founder complacency. This is something which kind of already talked about earlier. And this is especially, once again, for people who rip their content and it seems like pretty easy. Oh, they just scale something up real quick. They have 1K days, 2K days, 3K days. They think they're on the top of the world. Whereas, 1K, 2K, 3K days are usually just in revenue, right? And you realize it's actually not that crazy big amount of money that you actually, it's going to keep you, like not having to work again for the rest of your life. It's not that kind of money yet. And then they get complacent. The cool thing, or the problem with this is actually though, that even though they get complacent, they stop working for the next week, they're still going to make money, because an ad doesn't fatigue in a couple days. An ad fatigues in maybe a month or in 2 weeks or whatever, right? So what you have to understand, and this is already a huge problem, if you get lazy today, it's still going to work tomorrow. But in 2 weeks from now or in a month from now, that's when you see today's work. And so you see the result of today's work in 2 weeks from now or in a month from now, but you also see the result of not doing the work in a month from now. And that's when things get tricky. Okay, so keep this in mind and never get complacent. Now, next problem, low testing volume. This is something which pretty much everyone's doing wrong. Also, a lot of, already like more experienced brands, whenever you try to scale and it fails and you can't really figure it out, then, I'm a fan of brute forcing stuff. And so, I'm a big believer of this whole thing is very fair, right? If you test more than everyone else, then, you're also going to get better results than everyone else. And the thing is, people think that testing like 10, 20, 30 batches, so times 3 creatives a week is a lot. Well, that's nothing, right? If you really like the thing is, the average rate of tested creatives per ad account increases massively. People are aware of this, but you still have to do more than them, and more than them, not just 2 batches more, a multiply, like 10 times as much as them. That's when you see the positive outcome of volume. And so if you don't do this, you're going to be dusted by competitors who have the cash flow because they've not blown it on anything, that's just nonsense. They have everything system in place. So they have the team in place that they can pump out 100 ads a day and still have them on a high quality and all of these things. And there are brands that do that, right? Like, in fact, the fastest growing brands right now are testing around 100 ads a week, 100 unique creatives, unique concepts, unique scripts, okay? Very important. Now, biggest issue or biggest mistake is that people at some point, they always think they're going to live off of one traffic source. And the problem is, again, especially if this is paid ads, like that one traffic source is never going to get you basically where you want to go. Why? Because it's going to get more expensive and the ROAS is always going to go down naturally. And if you don't optimize also in other, for example, free organic traffic sources, word of mouth, whatever, then you're not going to get to that point of selling your business for a lot of money. And why? Because once again, then your business is going to decline. Your business is going to decline because if you only depend on top of funnel Facebook traffic, for example, or only Google, or only organic, or only this, or only that, then what happens if that one account or if that one traffic source goes down for some reason? If that platform, something happens to it, right, then you lose your business. Once again, that is a risk, and no investor that wants to buy a business is going to look at that in a good thing. No way. Okay. Now, next thing, no ad funnel. This is a huge mistake, a huge error that I see a lot of people make, is that they don't know what an ad funnel really is. They don't have a separate structure of top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. They don't make specific creatives based off of the awareness of people, and they just make anything. They just launch the stuff. They like I said, they have all the content from cow data, and they launch the same ads that they see there, download them, launch them, and that's it. Okay, that's all they do. Now, an ad funnel, what that is, and I've made separate videos about that, but essentially it's just separating the level of awareness of how aware are people of your stuff. So top of funnel would be new people that you're trying to get right now, likely, right? People have no clue who you are. However, it's usually a very small fraction of a huge market that is ready to buy today. So there's going to be a ton of people who see your ad, maybe even click, right? Maybe even add to cart, but never buy today immediately. They're not going to buy. They're not that type of person. Now, if you run your brand for 6 months, maybe then they're going to buy. And then you think, oh my God, it's a new customer, but they've already been knowing you for months and months and months. And most people are like that. Most people don't buy the first time that they see a piece of content from you. In fact, there's a rule of 7, which is people need to see you 7 different times until they're ready to buy from you, right? And that's like when you get a majority of market share, okay? So keep that in mind, remember this rule. And that's why you should implement an ad funnel. Now, last but not least, biggest mistake is that the founder works in the business and not on the business. And this is actually, well, like back to this topic, no systems, no employees, no tracking, right? Founder works in the business, meaning you as the founder of the e-com brand are doing the marketing, everything, right? Like you're creative strategist, you are a copywriter, you are a media buyer, which is uploading the ads, scaling the ads, tracking everything in the Google spreadsheets, doing literally everything, iterating, right? And then, graphic design, editing, like every single thing that you can imagine that is part of the creative process. Then you're reaching out to creators yourself. You're getting sourcing content, negotiating with suppliers. You're doing this, you're doing that. You do everything. And you really wonder why you're not making money. Well, the thing is, I can tell you, because the reason why is because you're not putting in enough time in each of these sections. And there's nothing wrong with launching your brand with multiple people. There's nothing wrong with using unfair advantages, with using leverage. And so try to use everything. If you come into this with capital, then partner up with someone who doesn't have capital. You have something that they want, but also they have the skill, for example. So they have something that you want, and it makes sense to partner up, right? If you partner up with people, as many people as possible, there's no rules that it can only be one. If you partner up with as many people as possible, and everyone has one key thing that the other guys don't have, and that's a huge unbeatable team. And that's what you should do. You should think of, how can I speed run this? How can I 100x from what I am now? This is the rule of 100x now. But that was pretty much it for the video, guys. I want to say thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention. Again, go ahead and implement this, because if you don't actually execute this, if you just watch these videos, listen to these videos, but don't execute, you've wasted your time pretty much. But besides that, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and execute it. See you next time.